Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to my viewers. This is an episode about the new moon in Gemini, and right now it's actually Saturn day, Saturn hour. So I was wondering why Saturn, and we'll see as we'll get to the new moon how will that develop or how will Saturn be related to this new moon. So the chart of today, the ascendant on 18 degrees Libra, with its ruler Venus in the 11th house in Leo, 4 degrees, separating from an opposition to Pluto and applying to square Jupiter, which is in Venus sign. Descendant is applying to conjunct Chiron with its ruler Mars in Leo. The moon in 15 degrees Pisces, um, currently, currently it's not making any traditional aspect. That will mean I will release this episode on, of course, some other time. But I'm wondering why at this time and the midheaven is ruled by this moon, um, which is void of course. So I want to have an asteroid chart of this very moment. And my way to do that, we might want to know a little bit of a trick, is to go to the monthly astro calendar and seek the moon. By the moon, you get the days where it ingresses. So it ingressed into Pisces. It ingressed yesterday, and I'm going to animate this one day forward, which is today. And it's almost the degree of the moon right now. And now I'm going to go to extended settings. Okay, that's not really helpful. Wait. I'm gonna go. No, I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna go one day back and I'm gonna give it the asteroids charts. Um, okay, trying to see what do I have here. I have Pallas in Leo, Sirius in Virgo, um, Juno in Gemini. Okay, I don't really see anything of um, the signs that I should be looking at or why this position of the moon. But let's do the new moon. So, um, this monthly astro calendar, and let's go to the new moon. That is June 18, where I am, 19, depending on where you at. It will be with the moon and the sun conjuncting in 26 degrees Gemini. And again, I want the asteroid position for this chart and the degrees. So they will be conjuncting Juno. So right now the moon is basically applying to trine Juno. And that is perhaps why I was still doing it from this position, as this is the finest aspect that we'll get in the near future of the moon to Juno. Um, so new moon in Gemini. This new moon will be squaring Neptune and trining and sextiling the nodes respectively. It will be sextiling Aries in Aries. So sextiling Aries in Aries, squaring Neptune. Um, it will be basically a new moon on Juno, sextiling Aries, and this can create duos or relationships or partnerships between Aries type of people and Juno type of people. Um, that can mean that with this new moon, certain people can meet. If it is a fated meeting, certain people can meet, certain new beginnings can happen, that will have an effect on the next 6 months and the next year. Mercury, the ruler of this new moon, is in 11th degree Gemini. And of course, it is squaring Saturn. Okay, so it's separating from a square to Saturn. And that is perhaps how we got to talk about this lunation in a Saturn day, Saturn hour. Because Saturn will be just in the degree that he is right now, 7 degrees Pisces, direct, and Mercury will square it, will separate from square to it. So this is the ruler of the lunation. Sedna by the time will already be in Gemini. So if you have anything in 1 to tops 3 degrees Gemini, um, you will be met by Sedna, and Sedna ingresses together with the moon ingress into Gemini. So you want to watch my Sedna video very carefully, and to begin to think of how do you prepare for this? How do you work with Sedna in a way that's actually good for you? And there is a sextile to Athena Pallas with this. So again, there's going to be a sextile to Aries, a sextile to Pallas, conjunction with Juno, um, which means that Pallas is applying to trine Aries. And so a lot of people that have um, righteous rage will begin to form unions, perhaps around this righteous rage. Okay, so there's a Juno is in the chart of a native is basically your spouse. Okay, it's one of the significations, the main significations of your spouse. So significant formation of relationships is noted in here. There is also trying to Eros and Hygeia. And Hygeia in Aquarius about cleanliness, and cleanliness on an Aquarian level can be, unfortunately, like the worst signification can be ethnic cleansing, but not at all has to be. It means that the certain changes and cleanliness of the psyche and cleanliness assist in Aquarius related issues. There's something you're clearing up, and this trying to Eros, okay, so intensifying the erotic attraction between couples. So we're going to have some fated couples forming around this time that um, may tackle communication issues or may tackle limitation around their ability to form agreements, okay, because Mercury there is squaring Saturn. The There can be an issue of being critical or criticism, or restriction upon communication, or that it's something inherent to these couples, that couples or more, that they're in somehow restricted or regulated, and they have to kind of face this regulation. Maybe they came about to change this regulation to begin with. And there is a square to Ceres there. Um, so we have a lot of asteroids active here. If you look at it without the asteroids, you will still see Juno. If you look at it from, let's do one more. We just look at the chart of this lunation. Then we see it's square in Neptune, when its ruler is square in Saturn. That in itself tells me that there is an issue of ideation around anything that forms. So it's very good for artistic endeavors. If you're making music together, if you're making art, if you're making um, telling stories, but it's not so good for clarity uh, of your endeavors, and it's not so good for the eyesight. Okay, that they can be you can be missing things, missing communication because it's a Mercury sign. Um, you might be idealizing whatever you begin here. And the ruler Mercury is facing limitations. So, limitations around communication, around a business transaction. Let's say I would not launch a business on this day. And anything more to say there? Um, it's involvement of ideation and restriction. So the way I would see this is that Saturn's restriction is not necessarily against you. There might be something that you don't see, and there is a certain sort of contraction being formed around this new beginning that's actually in your favor. Okay, the lunation calls to begin something new. Um, for all sakes and purposes, that new beginning must not depend on validity of communication, on trust in relations. Try to remember that, okay? Around the 18th, you must not depend on things having clarity because they won't. And if you're restricted at this time, it's a fated restriction that is actually meant to keep you from doing something you would later be let down by. So, whether it's a romantic relationship, creative endeavor, or maybe you want to write something, okay? Um, that is something you need to remember. Because new moons are usually around new beginnings, but not all of them are good for all new beginnings. Mercury rules children, trade, communication, public transportation, um, and whatever it rules in your chart. So heuristics, it can mean a business, a diplomacy, contracts. Not a good time to begin a new contract, not a good time to begin a new commitment. Um, the only things that you can do in with this is the type of creative project where you don't expect both parties to receive creative rights or to receive any compensation for that. Um, Perhaps a creative project that is in some way healing, um, and make sure you're not getting into a commitment or into agreement, or you're not signing anything that deprives you of your rights in here. It is a very good time to begin something that you want to to be restricted or be regulated. Okay, so if you actually have in mind something that you're kind of being forced to do, um, and you're not really desiring to go there, then the role of Saturn might serve as a two-edged sword. It might force you to do something, to force you to take this commitment, perhaps on an artistic level, but nobody can be trusted with this agreement. If on a mundane level there is a peace treaty during this time, I would not trust it to continue. I would not trust it to be to be working. If there is a policy decided upon, if an internal policy decided upon at this time, I would not expect it to be enforced. Okay, or there are going to be certain limitations around the ability to enforce this, and so um, the and that new beginning will probably have to do around things of Aries and Pallas, so women rights, transgender rights, even neurodivergent people. Okay, Aries and Aries can be neurodivergent. Aries is the mind, and Aries is divergent, basically. So it can be rights for neurodivergent people, certain things, and it's too idealized. You don't have all the details. You're you're building buildings in the air, but they're not going to materialize in the way that you hope them to. Okay? That Mercury, though, sextiles Venus by the degree and applies to sextile Mars in Leo. So it's going to look a lot, it's going to look very favorable. Um, and that is kind of like the situation where you desire something to be good and you feel a lot of it is good, but there's just certain level of ideation you're going with this that is way beyond the ability to deliver. Okay, it's kind of like you meet a nice person and you have to get a lot in common, and you think maybe I found the one. It's like you may have quite a nice affair. Leave place for disillusionment to occur so that you're still safe even if you're disillusioned from the connection. Definitely do not tie up with this person in any legally binding agreements. Okay? Because a lot of things are going to look like they're working in your favor. Venus and Jupiter are still within relations. Venus is applying to conjunct Mars. The lunation is sextile in Venus and Mars. No, yeah, the ruler of the lunation is Venus and Mars. So you'll be able to communicate about your kinks, your values. You might have agreement about your values or believe you have agreement about your values. You will be able to share drive and passion together. It kind of looks like this is it, which is the potency of disillusionment here, because it kind of looks like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is what I needed. Oh, I just needed to meet this person who is, the same kind of crazy as I am, the same kind of activist as I am. We complement each other with this, with that. But there's just some things that you absolutely do not see. And that's a place for disillusionment. If there is anything legally binding there that you want to take on with this person, I would go against it. On a mundane level, it can mean certain policies. Okay, so certain governments, um, on the level of internal policies, certain governments can come up with something that looks very promising, that looks very advanced, maybe pro LGBTQ stuff, pro gender issue stuff, pro children even. And it looks like if it looks too good to be true, it kind of is, but it's not going to even look too good to be true. It's going to look like, hey, that should have been done centuries ago. Thanks God they're finally doing that, but they're not doing that. So I would not, you know, um, I would hold back my horses on signing any legally binding agreement, on deciding upon who to vote based on this. Um, if there is in the international arena anything that is maybe around public health, because Saturn and Neptune are around public health, and they can be something that looks very promising, like global healthcare system or global healthcare insurance, that takes into account gay rights, kind of like utopia thingy. You better bet they're hiding something. Okay, you better bet they're hiding something. And with Mercury, Saturn, that may affect children, or regulation around children that is actually quite, it could be quite vicious, or it could simply be not the right thing to do. Um, and so I would really keep from signing anything that, even if you're asked to sign a survey or even forced to sign a survey, it's a good time to lie. It's a good time to not tell the truth. It's a good time to keep information hidden. If you need to file tax for taxes, consider what are your options, okay, to do something. Um, because there's something you're not seeing. You're going to be tempted by something, but there's something you're not seeing. Something that could otherwise be potentially very good is idealized here. Now, it doesn't mean you can't get anything good out of it. Okay, if you get some art out of it, that's great. If you get some nice romance out of it, and you're open to disillusionment, and you understand that if disillusionment happens, it's not the end of the world, that's okay. Anything that tries to legally bind you, to make you sign something, to make you give a word that has any legal implications, avoid it like the plague. Okay? Um, and that is my recommendation for this Gemini new moon beginning, because there's so many planets like June, asteroids like Juno being involved. You run the risk of thinking somebody is the one, and they're not. Okay, then they're not for you. And it's okay to indulge in a dream as long as you don't do anything legally binding. Because judo is spousal stuff, okay? You gotta think, oh, this is the one. If they're gonna try to make you sign an agreement or propose in a very beautiful way, you're like, okay, I need my time. It's not the right time to do so. And if they propose at this time, you better be sure that either one or both of you is idealizing a lot. So because it's a new moon, it's a new beginning. And that's not a favorable aspect for a new beginning, simply put. Okay? It's favorable for anything that you don't have to give your word for. That your word does not have any implication, and that the other person's word does not have any implications. But because of the involvement of Juno, fit with someone, because both of you are going to believe this is the one, or all of you are going to believe that this is the one, this is it, this is it. It's all I ever wanted. We agree on our values, we have the same kinks, we're passionate about each other, we, you know, and, and yeah, you gotta remember the moon is met with the sun here. The sun is not a benefic. It doesn't mean that you can't have new beginnings on new moon, but if you would ask the question, if you would pop the question on this date, as a horary, the moon is with the sun. So the answer is no. If you pop the question, something happens around this new moon, the answer is no. Okay? But because of Juno and because of the square to Neptune, it's gonna be very difficult to say this no. Okay? And because Mercury is squaring Saturn, there's something here that could be legally binding. There's something here that somebody's going to grab you by the word. Your words could get you into certain depth. Okay? Because Saturn is depth. So, and that is, in a way, can be in a situation consciously or unconsciously, it can be on purpose. And again, I don't necessarily associate, if this is on a personal level, it doesn't mean that somebody is trying to fool you down. It means that you can both be codependent, and that other person, they just want to know that you're with them, they just want to know that you're committed, and they're gonna try to get you to say something that is binding, even legally, even financially. so that they will feel that you are committed to them, and you may be feeling like this is the right thing to do, but it's not. So it's not necessary with these squares to Neptune. On a personal level, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is insidious and trying to undermine you. It can be the case for some people, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. It can be two delusional people. If you make a joint purchase at this time, it's not the time to make any new purchases around this new moon. I would avoid it. I would wait for Mercury to leave the square with Saturn to order something, um, to make a purchase that would get you in debt, that would affect your financial situation. Um, all of these things, there's something that I would, by any means necessary, I would advise against. Um, in general, what can you do with this new beginning? You can paint a painting. You can, um, again, I prefer painting here to writing something. Okay, because writing can also be problematic here. Um, if you paint something, if you do something musical, that you don't expect compensation for. So it's very good for leisure activities where you, let's say if you're with a group of people, or in couple, or like a nice date for this time would be to buy canvas together and make a joint painting that neither of you is intending to sell or make profit on, or the Mercury rules too, so you can buy two canvases and then you can paint this like the same painting in two canvases, and then one takes one canvas, the other takes the other canvas, or create something with your hand, do something with your hand, something creative, that is two, and then if you are two people, one takes one, the other takes the other. That is nice. Okay, that is nice. And that is something you can probably get away with unless you make it talismanic and try to imbue it like it. It's not the time to do so. That is something you can probably get away with and still be good. Um, Other things you could do with that, well, you could read a book. You could read a book around themes of Neptune, so something to do with whales, something to do with oceans, something to do on a more mundane level, history of blah blah blah. But fiction is preferred over non-fiction at this time. Anything that is supposed to have a real material impact in this world is not favored. And we know Mercury is just separating from Aldebaran. So people are going to want to have material gain with this. Only if you can withstand disillusionment, if you can withstand loss that has long term impact. Okay, Mercury Saturn in the square, there's a long term impact to what's being said, to what's being done here. So, um, to try to orchestrate something around it would be so much so that it's very preferred to postpone things. Um, and one way you can get with this energy is um, to create beautiful creations. They can probably be very romantic, to read about famous couples, or like LGBTQ famous loves or couples, or romance stories, queer sexuality, kind of like that. And again, fiction is favored upon nonfiction. Whatever you read right now that is nonfiction, you're not gonna get the whole story. Somebody have invented history there in whatever you're reading that it's not giving you something, but you're gonna idolize it and think this is true. This is what happened. It happened this way, and then you're gonna form positions around it that do not necessarily have any contact with reality. So let's do ascendants. So for the ascendant Gemini, This is happening in your first house, so this is important for you. You're being involved with, or you're thinking to be involved with someone, and with Juno, it can very well be romantic. Watch the introduction on why they're not the one. I am saving you a horror questioning about this. They're not the one. And do not make any promises to anyone at this time. Don't make any promises to anyone. Okay, now I'm trying to think of something good that you could do with this Saturn Mercury. A paint the skeleton of your hands. Okay, Saturn skeleton, or paint the skeleton. Okay, painting is something you do with your hands. Skeleton is Saturn, and Saturn in Pisces. Pisces art. So paint skeletons, or you make a statue of a skeleton. That can be something that gives place to Saturn, because Saturn is gonna manifest. The hard aspect is a manifesting aspect, even though it's a separating one. Saturn is gonna want to take its place. If you give it the place where if you give it a place, or maybe paint ravens, feed ravens, but then you have to make a commitment around that. Um, Incorporate Saturn, kind of give it a place in this that is still taken into account and bringing the energy of Saturn, but is not doing so in a way that you can get into depth or whatnot. But if you can actually paint a skeleton, or paint a raven, or maybe you can, if you do something with your hands, maybe you create nice rings. But again, as long as they're not talismanic, and you have to take into account that every product is a talisman of the chart that it was made. But you can make these rings as something that you later bury in the ground or bury in the soil, um, and kind of that is the remedy that you do, not to consecrate these rings, but actually to bring them back, or send them into a body of water, into the sea, into the ocean, um, as a way to take advantage of this, to do something with your hands, or maybe to learn something. Saturn is good learning something, and Mercury is applied, so to learn something that you apply. And then whatever your model is, you can throw it into the ocean, and you say thank you to this creation and to the spirits that were around, and have this transience in this way. Okay, that's one thing that you might want to be doing. This is also true for general reading. Ascendant Cancer. So for you, this is happening in your 12th house. um, you might be dreaming of ravens. uh, 12th house, so that can signify hidden enemies. But with Juno, you might feel like, if somebody approaches you with a commitment here, you're not able to fully see their motives. Okay, and it doesn't mean that those motives are evil. It just means that they are meeting you from the place where you didn't know that you didn't know, and they're making a certain communication, or they're making a certain, or they're trying to get you to make a certain communication that is going to be legally binding. Don't let them. Okay. Um, and you can meditate on a blue crystal. Okay, because Mercury's communication, we use blue for the Mercury, and it can be aquamarine. Okay, aquamarine I think should go. And again, I'm not saying wear aquamarine. I'm not saying use it as remedy. I'm saying meditate on aquamarine. You can invite it in. You don't have to buy the crystal. Okay, you can invite it in energy. Um, because Saturn rules crystals and minerals, and Mercury rules small things. So a small piece of aquamarine, and Mercury rules communication. So small piece of aquamarine, if you can envision it in your mind and have these meditations before you go to sleep, and you set the intention to have fruitful clarity, around places where you're not seeing things correctly, or alternatively to have to have fruitful artistic clarity or something like that, or to have a nice lucid dream that can be assisting you. Anybody that comes with you with anything Mercury, okay, so communication, contract, um, even children, okay, somebody can send children your way or something like that. You be kind to them, of course, but it's not, don't make anybody bind you into something, but do integrate Saturn so that Saturn has a place. If you leave no place for the planet that's in hard aspect, they're just gonna do something. Okay, but if you give them a place, like, hey, I want to have your input, please. I just want to have it in a way that I can digest it and that I do good things with it. Then you meet the planet halfway. The planet is going to go like it's going like, especially Saturn. Saturn is very much about commitment and dedication. It's not just a planet that asks for you to be committed and dedicated. The Saturn is showing you commitment and dedication. So you're gonna you can receive really good things when you meet the planet halfway. Ascendant Leo. So this lunation is happening in your 11th house. You should be particularly cautious because your sun, your ascendant that is ruled by the sun, is in the 11th house. You could be given a conference at this time, and if that is the case, um, if because you will be in a public sphere, and your words are going to have long-term impact. So you're one of the ascendants that really can't get away from tackling this. This is where I would call in remediation. And there are many ways that you can do remediation. I can't tell you what will work for you because I don't know. Okay? What can I predict? Because this lunation is ruled by Mercury, you might want to work with the type of talismans. You can work with them in energy if you don't have it. If they don't arrive by the lunation, you can work with them in energy. Um, and that can be any talisman that is of Mercury. But you need to know before you work with talismans, you definitely need to know who made this talisman, what is the chart. If you see, I don't think I will do anything mercurial, but if you see something by me, then know that this is probably not for you unless you already know astrology that deeply that you understand what it's about, because I'm not a trained magician. Um, I'm self taught in a lot of my endeavors, and this is definitely a self taught endeavor. So I honestly recommend that if you're watching this and you're not like a professional astrologer or somebody who has worked with astrological magic before, more than just moon phases, um, then do seek out people like Gracia Tassio, who is doing sidereal astrology, like Christopher Warnock, who's doing Renaissance astrology talismans, like Sphere and Sundry, which provide very accessible transient talismanic materia, kind of like oils or body creams. So if you want to if you want to have Mercury on your skin, actually anointing yourself with something to do with Mercury is good. Another thing, lavender is a herb of Mercury. So if you smell lavender before, and you don't want to get into astrological talismans, you can smell lavender, and it's also a herb. So it is, and you really like if you can walk by where lavender grows and you can ask for permission, you can just take a couple of lavenders and put them in a sachet, or make sure you sniff them before they and ask, ask of Saturn, please restrict my language before I say something stupid. And he asked for Mercury to speak your heart, and for Saturn to restrict what needs to be restricted. Like, please, Saturn, censor me if needed be. Makes and you will see that things happen. If you're in a conference, you're about to say something, finally you won't find the words. It's finally you're gonna spill like a glass of water or a glass of coffee, as a glass is also Saturn. And you'll see that things just come up and you just kind of lose your train of thought and you were about to say something stupid. Saturn stopped it. It can do that. Okay, turn to the planets, and you don't really need to buy, a $400 portal in the shape of a talisman. You can actually just grab some lavenders and do that. Of course, if you have a talisman that is mercurial, Mercury is one of the ways that you can address this. Okay. Another way to address this is to turn two planets like Fomalhaut, which help and assist along with Mercury, Gemini, or separately with reputation. Okay, so again, you can find Sphere and Sundry, you can find Christopher Warnock. I don't know if Krasi was doing anything, and I found another person who their talismans. Um, oh, wait, I want to show you. But we are on YouTube. Gonna try and see how do I do that. They recently had serious stuff. So I have not worked in the physical with those things. That's just gonna give me a lot of my, but they had serious talismans, and I want to find it for you. Because I wanted to mention this person. Their YouTube channel is still growing, but they seem to do really good stuff. And they sell their talismans, so can I please have this serious talismans? 2 days, oh, it was more than 2 days ago. You're getting so many notifications by this time. Now you see all the channels that I'm subscribed to. Like I said, don't rely on me with anything secretive. I am a whistleblower. I expose stuff. So, no, I'm going to do that. Okay, that's taken quite long. Longer than I intended. Okay, I'm gonna look at serious talismans. What is that? I think that's okay. No. There it is. No, something recent. There's medieval astrology guide that provides for elections that I really like. Christopher Warnock, Renaissance Astrology. Crasia Tasio, this is her channel. Wait. Um, serious talisman. Serious talisman. I want something. It was recent. Come on. Filters. No, because I want this channel to get. Let's do recent, relevance, upload date. Date this month. Oh, there it is. The Ivory Tower. Okay, so that was 7 days ago, and they also make talismans. They do also fixed star talismans. They do like traditional planet talismans, and those are, as you can see, those are like consecrated crystals. So it's more traditional version of talismanic materia. And back to the chart. So this is another source you can go. Okay, probably you're not gonna get your talent unless you order like very quickly. Then, although maybe you might get if I release this episode sooner. So working with Mercury, working with Fomalhaut. I don't know if Sphere and Sundry still has the Quicksilver tongue, which is supposed to assist the Saraswati. I think the Quicksilver tongue is the Saraswati. Or you can turn to Saraswati, hear Saraswati's mantras, because what you're aiming for is basically to not censor yourself entirely, but to ask that if you're about to say something really stupid that's going to have a legally binding or financially binding implications that are long term on you, please, universe, make it stop. Okay? That's what you're asking for. Next ascendant. So next ascendant is Virgo, which you also are Mercury, and this is happening in your 10th house. Um, so that means some communication with your boss, because Mercury represents both you and whoever that person is. It can be a father, a mother, it can be a boss, it can be you as a boss, and that's going to affect your public reputations too. So the recommendations, um, definitely, well, for you, you might be able to work with Mercury Virgo as well, because Mercury Virgo is nitpicking, and that gives you a sense of focus, but still, working with the lavender herb, or working with Fomalhaut, or working with something like Saraswati or Quicksilver tongue, or something of the like of the Saraswati yoga, that can assist you in the communication that needs to take place. If somebody offers you a promotion, this is very important. If somebody offers you a promotion at this time, um, make say I need time to check other offers that I currently have on the table. And so you may be lying, but first of all, begin to check these offers. Use Mercury in Gemini, or use Abracamino stuff to open doors for you. Anything that helps you to open doors. So Mercury stuff is opening doors. So it can be Mercury Virgo, it can be Mercury Gemini. Abracamino stuff. Yeah, I'm holding my Abracamino Dorky subset by Sphere and Sundry as I'm making this episode about the Gemini lunation. Those things can assist you, and do genuinely, if you're being offered a promotion, which you might be offered, do generally look for more options and take the time with it, and make a divination before you actually take an option and take a job, because something here is beyond, it's too good to be true. Okay, something here is true. Somebody is not telling all the facts. Okay, so it's better to be you. It better be you that's not telling all the facts. It better be you that said, well, I got a couple of offers at my table that I do need time to reassess, and I will be back within 3 months, 6 months or so, while I'm currently keeping in my day job. And you might have no offer on the table, but it's time to get one. And it's okay to say this white light is going to get you advanced, and it probably is going to leave the offer even more if they're serious. And allow at least until the full moon, here the next full moon, for things to clear up, so that you can actually see what's going on there, which you cannot with this new lunation. Ascendant Libra. So you have the ruler of your ascendant in the 11th sextile in the ruler of the lunation. And the ruler of the lunation is in your ninth house. You could be offered tuition. You could be asked to approve a thesis proposal, or a dissertation proposal. If you need to defend your dissertation or defend your thesis at this time, um, hold a crystal, lapis lazuli, okay? Something that holds both the frequency of truth, that is blue, and that is a crystal that you involve Saturn, so that you will be able to speak your truth and have it being defended. Um, and anything that is going to give you success. So the Mercury Gemini, the Fomalhaut, the Saraswati, Quicksilver tongue, they're all valid. Again, you have to check it against yourself. This is not a prescription. This is something, a prediction that might work for you. I'm not a certified magician, okay, astrological magician. So I'm coming up with things for you to gain your own sovereignty and think for yourself here. And if you want to experiment, those are the things that you can look deeper into with whomever you consider doing so. That is not me. Anyway, um, if you are about to begin to study something new, or begin to open a semester, um, it's a good time to declare that your dog ate the contract. Okay, It's a very good time to declare that your dog ate the contract and get yourself a dog. Why not? But um, that's not because you don't want to sign anything. You're not signing anything. The way to go about it, many ways. Many ways. Okay? Oh, my landlord just called. There's something I must fix with my apartment. I have to take so and so days off. And oh, that was just lost. I accidentally erased the mail and I can't seem to recover it because I just like trashed the entire inbox or something. Like, do something. Or I had a virus in my computer. That's the time. You can lie. Neptune is viruses. I had a virus in my computer. Don't sign anything. If it's about your studies, about your dissertation, if you're supposed to travel somewhere. Now, if you have to travel, um, take a lapis lazuli with you, or take mercury talismans with you, like abricamino or something that is opening options. um, yeah, and plan ahead. Saturn likes planning and dedication. So if you provide Saturn with the plan, you say that I'm going to be here, then I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and think about a couple of options. Let's say I'm going to have at least two cars if it's public transportation. I have let's have photocopies of everything that I need in more than one trusted source. Those type of things is like I'm meeting Saturn halfway. I'm taking the time to dedicate to the details, and so I'll be met with yeah, with good conditions or with better conditions. Ascendant Scorpio. So for you, this lunation is happening in the eighth house. Like I said, no signing documents. Now, if somebody suddenly dies and you need to sign something, even if it is a will and you're supposed to receive money, like Libra, it's a good time to say my doggy ate my ex and I need to hold with that so that you can get at least a couple of days, um, at least until Mercury is leaving the square with Saturn, so that you can uh, meet those meetings that you can sign the things that you need to sign in a certain way. If something is an emergency, then all the tips that I applied in the introduction can be good for you. And it's not a good time to sign your own will or to design your own will. It's not a good time to begin a new investment portfolio. Okay, I would wait with that. I would do the planning. Okay, so you can do the planning now and allow place for this disillusion to happen, and then you can get a more realistic expectation. If you're intending to invest money, if you're managing somebody else's money, this is a good time for not taking any new steps with it. So yeah, ascendant Sagittarius. So ascendant Sagittarius, this is happening in your seventh house of partnership. You are the most susceptible of the ascendants to think that you have found the one. Okay, and by all means, do not marry at this time. By all means, if you have already set the date, then consult somebody about remediations. I don't know how to do that. Like, I would not take on this case. Um, and other than that, it's not a good time to set for a wedding. It's not a good time to make any legally binding commitments. It's not the time to move in together unless you are open, you both are open to the option that you're going to sever ties. Um, Separate houses is preferred with this one. Separate bank accounts for sure. If your partner could be lying or could be unaware of their own financial situation, they can think that they're in more optimistic situation. You can think you're in more optimistic situation. Therefore, if your finances are separated, it's good. Um, Not to make any legally binding contracts. Um, in general, it's not a good time to commit. Okay, you might very likely to believe you have found the one. And if you're like me and you have Juno in 27 degrees natally and it's your Juno return, take the extra step. Like really ask for how can I um, do the right thing at the right time with the right people. Okay, because not a business partnership is favored here, and not a personal partnership is favored here. No, if you have currently married, don't begin any new commitment with your partner at this time. What can you do? Like I said, go to the introduction. Okay, have an activity together where you both, let's say, you buy two canvases and you paint together, and then one takes one canvas, or gift those canvases between it, gift those canvases, gift those paintings to each other, without expecting any, material gain out of it, and that can be a way to go. Ascendant Capricorn. So this is happening in your house of pets, health, and another house of open enemies, also health as well. Um, all the things I said in the introduction apply. It's not the best time to adopt a new pet, okay? Or if you are, like, if it's like an emergency case, you can. It's very likely that this pet will supposed to be staying with you, so you want to take this into account. And it's very likely that you would need to tend to its health care more than you believe. Okay, somebody tells you, oh, this dog is very healthy. Yeah, we found them on the street, but the vet checked them and they're very healthy. They can be telling the truth, but there is something that the vet checked and didn't know, because they could be having invisible virus or invisible infection that will come up at a later time, that you'll have to pay, a lot of money to get this pet to be healthy, and you might also be legally binded to do so. So if you understand this ahead of time, um, that there might be disillusion here, then if you say, well, I can't take care of this pet, but you say, okay, we're going to give you food, just take care of them until somebody finds them a family. um, you are the family, okay? But in this situation, it can be that you rather that to be with the pet than for that to be a health issue that you have, or for that to be an enemy at work or something like that. So it's actually remedial for you to caretake for a pet, um, and and ask for like assistance from the stars on how to do so. Ascendant Aquarius. So for you, um, this is happening in the fifth house of children, of new creative projects. It's a good time to do something of leisure, and that involves um, you can paint skeletons, you can paint ravens, you can paint the ruins of a ship in the ocean. You can learn about the underneath of the ocean. Granted that you won't be given the good information, but so painting is very favored with this one. Um, in communication with children, there may be things that you're not aware of, but this activity or doing this activity with your children can actually improve upon the situation. That's something that you can do as long as you don't expect creative rise, as long as you don't expect to necessarily make money or make profit out of this. And by the way, by letting go, it can be because of Neptune, by letting go, it can be that Neptune will yield you unexpected results, because it's a manifesting aspect. So Neptune might yield unexpected wealth, but it's only if you're genuinely letting go, and only if you're not having to sign, like, this is not like a scam. If somebody says, oh, I've seen your artwork on Instagram and I'd really like to pay you so and so, and there, I just need your bank account to where to transfer the money. That's not, that's not real. Ascendant Pisces. So for you, this is happening in the fourth house. If you need to renew a contract, okay, if you're a tenant or you have tenants and need to renew a contract, um, it's best to wait with this one, okay? If you're the landlord, so the power is in your hands. You're like, okay, I'm giving you those days, like I'm giving you the next month free, and we're going to renew. Like I'm giving you the next month free. Not in the sense like you can still pay for this. Like if you want to live and you want to renew the contract, you can still pay for this month, but we're not signing just yet, so that we can just get a better election. For signing, it's your property. You're allowed to do so. You don't have to do anything unless you're obligated to renew the contract. And then you might want to consult an astrologer who is doing electional and is doing these things. So that can be the case. I cannot help you with this. If you are the tenant and you need to renew a contract, um, the best thing to do is to have another set of eyes on this contract before you sign it. Okay? And the more you plan for this ahead of time, the more this can work for you. Um, with the energy of Neptune, you might want to give a little white lie there, but don't say any legally binding stuff. If you absolutely must sign, then listen to like integrate Saturn in some way, shape, or form here. So you can ask Saturn to restrict something. It can actually be that you want to sign something, but Saturn restricts it, and it restricts it in your favor. So if there are delays here, they are in your favor, because the commitment here could really be binding, and you don't want to do that. It can be the case that if it is your home, or maybe somebody at your family, they say, "Oh, we were offered to renew the contract for 5 years in a fixed price," and it's like later you find out the price does not include some property taxes that you're expected to pay, or it doesn't include gas, or it doesn't include certain like, or that it's a very high fixed price that you won't be able to commit to for 5 years, but this is a legally binding contract. So and that might look like a good deal. Okay, it presents a good deal. It's a fixed price for 5 years in this crazy housing market, and before you know it, like everybody's dying to rent apartments to people, so they're doing everything because there are house flippers that distort the market and so on and so forth. So you want to do your best to take as much time as you can with anything in here. Okay, not a time to meet anybody, not a time to meet anything about any housing, definitely not to purchase a house. Okay, it's not a time to purchase a house at this time. So yeah, and with your family, it's best to do joint projects like to paint at home, rather than to have conversations that's supposed to bear meaning. Like do some fun activity at home. Ascendant Aries. So Ascendant Aries is happening in your third house of siblings, of communication, of the business that you own, applied skill, applied business, neighbors, neighborhood, public transportation or transportation. Um, Again, do not. It's not a time to buy a car. It's not a time to take any test. Um, It's also not a time to fill in your taxes. If you have to have a delay in your taxes fulfillment, what is the, because there can be a delay, there can be a fatal delay here with taxes. What is the fee for that? So try to plan ahead of time and try to save ahead of time, because there can be, if you issuing for taxes, there can be something that even if you issue it on time, there will be a mistake, and then they will want to charge you or something like that. But it kind of seems like it's all good. It is not. Um, so again, don't sign anything for as much as you can. If you absolutely must sign, then bring in Saturn too. And you can watch the introduction for possible ways to integrate that. Ascendant Taurus. So this is happening in your second house. So how this purchases at this time could be misleading, could lead you to debt. Okay, um, whatever you think is right to buy at this time, you feel like this is such a good purchase. If Saturn delays it, and it might delay it, okay, maybe you think, oh, I really want to buy this. Now it's a good time. It's a window of opportunity. And Saturn delays it, and then after a while, you find out why. So this isn't the best case, but sometimes you can make a purchase here that is actually binding for more than you plan to. So if you know this ahead of time, you can understand more of the situation. You can actively ask Saturn to delay purchases and to delay your spending money where you shouldn't be spending money. Because this is also the house of skill. If you're charging money right now, it's not the time to launch a business. It's not the time to launch a new service. It's not the time to launch a new payment platform. Okay, all those things could be leading to Neptune experiences of the fishing kind. So fishes are good on the plate, not in your bank account. So that's something to keep in mind here. And I guess that goes for all ascendants, the short episode. Thank you for my dorky subset. Spice Sphere and Sundry smells great. I really like it. And I'm going to release it when the moon stops being void, of course. So let's just take a look at the current planets. And the moon. The moon. Okay, oh, it's applying to the sun. It's not void, of course. Why did I say it's void, of course? I wasn't seeing well. It's applying to the sun. It's actually Jupiter hour. Okay, bye-bye. I'm releasing. You can subscribe.